The other thing that I played and completed this week is a game called Signalis, which, first of all, this is a survival horror game. So, I am now both narrative boy Mark Robinson and now survival horror boy Mark Robinson. Who'd have thunk that in the year 2022?
And From Software's biggest fan these days, too.
That as well, yes, of course. I'd completely forgotten about that. So, yeah, this has been out for, I think, like 2, maybe 3 weeks now. It's on Game Pass, but it's been released on everything. And I'd seen a fair number of reviews saying that, hey, this is a thing that you probably should play this year. And it's a survival horror, so I was like, well, I guess I'll watch a playthrough of this, and that'll be my experience with it. But someone I know was like, hey, look, it's tense, but it doesn't really do the jump scares. It doesn't do like a lot of the things that kind of the sort of more modern takes on survival horror do that I don't enjoy. And more, I think most crucially for me, it's not in first person, because that's kind of like my biggest no-go, which is why Resi 7 and Village are never going to happen for me. But this is, it's very much, its flavor is it's a PlayStation 1 style survival horror. The influences of Silent Hill and Resident Evil are very much there to see in all kind of aspects of the mechanics of it, the visual style of it, the kind of puzzle elements. Very much like if you've played any of those games, you're going to see a lot of that in here. But it also pulls from a bunch of different areas as well. Like the way the camera approaches, and a lot of like the visual elements and the UI elements, and a lot of the story framing. It's very Kojima inspired. Like there's a lot of original Metal Gear Solid in this as well. There's also, like 90s anime, Ghost in the Shell, like actual, not the kind of overbearing, gimmicky anime that I can't deal with. It's like the kind of adult anime, the 90s anime, the science fiction anime, Ghost in the Shell, that sort of thing.
It's not like neon white is what you're saying.
Not neon white. Definitely not neon white, no. But Neon Genesis, that's here. There's some, like nods to Lovecraftian elements in there. There's cosmic horror. It's it's pulling from a bunch of strings, but crucially, it doesn't feel like it's relying on any of those. It does feel like its own thing, and I think part of that is because this was a game made by 2 German developers, and so there's a lot of like Cold War era like East German iconography and symbolism, and it does this thing where a lot of times during the game and in the cutscenes, there will be like flash cuts of German words and German iconography, and it's this weird fusion of that 90s sci-fi anime with that kind of Soviet Union Cold War sort of style of typography and symbolism, that it's a weird clash that I've never really seen before. But by the end of the game, you're kind of taken into this world that, hey, these are just the things and how they exist, because it's a game that is obviously, there's the futuristic element to it, that your character, you play as an android or a replica called Elster, who is looking for this other woman that you're not sure if it's like your owner, your sister, your lover. It's all kind of quite ambiguous with that. So it's very futuristic. It's very, set in kind of science fiction, but there's also a real like analog, again, kind of like Cold War sort of feeling to it, in terms of that all of the guns are very simplistic. You have pistols, you have shotguns, you have flare guns. The kind of like mining facility that you're in, like all of the PCs look like Apple IIs from the 80s. When you go into your menu, your inventory screen, there's like this kind of little click of a button and this kind of humming that you can hear in the background of like an old 80s PC that's kind of struggling to work. You use floppy disks to check out the Windows screen that looks like it's from like Windows 95. It's this really interesting fusion of futurism and like older technologies that is so wonderfully realized. And so, yeah, while it is obviously very much indebted to the likes of Resident Evil and Silent Hill, it throws all of these other kind of bits in there that the game does kind of stand on its own. And even though you might see a puzzle gimmick where you need to, kind of click some, like all of the puzzle elements, you basically go into like a first person mode. And there might be a thing where you've got like 3 fingers and you've got a hand and 4 fingers and a thumb, and you've got 3 rings, and you have to know which rings to put them on. And you basically acts like a point and click. And it all feels like, puzzle elements that you would have seen in Resi 1 or Silent Hill 1. And you're looking at them thinking, oh yeah, this feels very much like that, but it still feels realized within this world. So, it's nodding to those, but it's never kind of relying on the nostalgia that those games bring. It does feel like its own thing. It's the game in terms of the plot is very hard by design to like explain exactly what is going on, because it's not done in like a coherent fashion. There's a lot of, you don't know kind of like what is existing in this specific time frame, what is the past, what is the future, what is like this timeline, or what is like an alternative version of this timeline. And that goes to the characters in the game as well. So you're kind of on that journey with them where there's a lot of like is this a dream, is this like reality? And so while there are games you can play, or while there are like films or whatever that you can watch where that sort of thing happens and it gets quite like up its own arse or that sort of thing, I never got to that point, and I get to that point a lot easier than some other people. Like I do like my films to follow some sort of like coherent plot, but I never found it to be an issue, because I think that the story, you don't need to know the story from point A to point B to have the motivation, because the motivation is that you are trying to find this person, and the kind of notes that happen in between, while they're a bit jumbled, you still have like the end goal of what you're trying to focus on. And but I think the way that it presents all of these things in between, it's like there's a confidence and a swagger to this game for a game that's made by 2 people, and this is what I think is their debut game, that I'm just constantly like blown away from the flash style kind of quick cuts with all of the things that I've mentioned, but also the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack to this game is unbelievable. It's made by they're called 1000 Eyes and Cicada Sirens. And, if you think about a horror game and that kind of oppressive sort of industrial sort of soundscape that you might expect, there are elements of that you get. Like if you go into a room with the monsters, and I guess I should get to the monsters at some point, you'll get that kind of like industrial clanging to let you know that you're in a dangerous area. But a lot of this game is made up of like these really kind of hauntingly piano driven ballads that feel straight out of Black Swan, and like the game literally uses Tchaikovsky at a couple of points for like significant cutscenes, and it's an incredible soundtrack. Like the sound design throughout this game, going back to what I was saying about that kind of like fusion of futurism and the digital and analog, it plays with that with a lot of the sound design as well. And I think like I've been listening to the soundtrack just aside of the game, and I think it's incredible. So I think like most games I will try and play with a podcast or whatever, and certainly like for slightly like spookier games, I like to have some sort of sound that isn't part of the game that kind of keeps me detached enough from the game, so like I don't get too spooked out. But I had headphones on, I was just fully immersed in this world. And, in the world itself, like, so basically there are like these other androids or replicants that there's like a virus. Where the virus has come from, how it's kind of came about is sort of up in the air. But basically this mining facility that you land on, all the humans that have contracted this virus, they're dead. But the androids that are like, they're made up of some level of organic material, but obviously there's like the synthetic parts of them as well, means that they're not fully dead, and they reanimate, and they're quite they're anything that they see they will attack, and they'll scream, and it's quite distressing. And yeah, it's a really, really well put together game. And I think that the crucial thing about it that might be the thing for people that they might kind of decide, this is not for me, is that survival horror, one of the things about it is you're, hanging your head on like inventory space and how much you give a player. And it's not so much about you killing enemies, it's about knowing when to kill enemies and when to run away. And this entire game is framed around that because you have 6 inventory slots, which is there's an empire that like kind of governs all of this, and they have a rule of 6 protocols. So it's kind of built into the world logic, the game lore, that you have these 6 inventory slots, and the weapons that you pick up, they'll take up an inventory slot each. Ammo that you pick up for those weapons, they take up inventory slot as well. Now, thankfully, if you pick up 6 bullets for a pistol, that will stack. But if you have like shotgun rounds and rifle rounds, they will all take up slots as well. And because like the idea is that you're on a particular level and you have a puzzle where you have like these 6 stones that you need to put into a wall, you're going around trying to find these stones, or you're trying to find out the things that keys to unlock like these stones. You have to be thinking about like your inventory management, because you might come into a room where you've got like 3 things, where there's 2 ammo and there's a key, and you have only like 1 slot left because you've decided to stack up with like 2 guns, 2 ammo and whatever else. You can't play like that, because otherwise you're going to be doing a lot of backtracking, which thankfully the levels aren't too big, but the simple fact is the enemies in this game, you cannot permanently kill them unless you use like a flare gun or like a like a kind of fire, and they're very limited. So you don't want to just be like burning up the first enemies you come across. You want to be very tactical about, okay, maybe I'll use a bullet on this enemy here, but I know they're going to reanimate in 3 or 4 times when I come back, so I need to be smart about if I actually want to do that, because I only have a finite amount of bullets that I want to use. So you have to, you really plan your strategy out. You really look at the map and you really kind of think about like, okay, where have I been? Where do I need to go? I need to actually plan a strategy here about how I get from point A to point B. And the map is really easy it's a really good map, really solid like way it's designed, but it is about you mentally thinking about what you have seen. Did I find a key in this room? Which door does it unlock? But the game helps you out in this way where you might go to a door and it might be locked and it will say like it needs X key, so all right, when I find that key, this will go there. Or maybe you'll find a key and it will say library key, and then you'll see on the map there's a hallway that says library hallway, so you think, okay, one of those doors there is where that's going to connect to. And it's just all of these little things that it does that keeps you guessing, keeps you constantly on your toes, but it gives you like little breadcrumbs to just kind of you keep in the back of your mind, like, did I see that door there? Did I see that key there? This, quite simply, is currently my favorite game that I've played this year, which I did not think I would say for a survival horror, and I could probably talk for another hour about this thing, but, I don't want to go on forever, but I really, really think that it's something that people should play. It is on Game Pass. Garrett, it is on Game Pass. You don't have to buy it on Switch, but you can if you want to. I'll leave that up to you. I think this thing is fucking exceptional.
Right now.
I really think this thing is fucking exceptional. And I love the just the visuals of it, like the PlayStation 1 style visuals. It's like, it looks like it could have been made on the PlayStation 1, but it'd be like the best looking PlayStation 1 game because of like the fusion of that and the cutscenes and whatnot. So
it's like that classic art style. It's like, it's your memory of what a PS1 game was.
Yeah. Just go and play this, honestly. It's about 8-9 hours long, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. The last sort of like hour or two, because of the way the game is paced, I would say that the pacing suffers a little bit towards the end, but I don't think that would dampen anyone's enjoyment of it. So yeah, Signalis, essential, just fucking essential, I will say.